Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to see the origin of Islam. Islam is one of the world's major monotheistic religion. Islam comes from the word al-Silm and Istaslama, which means peace and surrender. The God in Islam is referred to as Allah, which is Arabic means the God or the deity. A person who believes and practices the religion of Islam is called as Muslim. Islam was founded in the early 7th century by the Prophet Muhammad. Muhammad lived from 570 to 632. He was born in Mecca into a middle class family in a powerful tribe of nomadic herders and successful merchants. His father died before he was born, and his mother died when he was only 6 years old. He was raised by an adopted family into adulthood. Muhammad worked as a merchant for several years on the trade routes between Arabia, Syria, and Yemen. While working the trade routes, Muhammad met a wealthy widow named Khadija, who hired him to protect her caravans. Even though Khadija was 15 years his senior, they will marry in 595 CE. When Muhammad was 40 years old, he began hearing voices and seeing visions of divine angels. To better understand this vision, he will go to Mount Hira and meditate. On one such January in 1610, the archangel Gabriel appeared to him and told him that there was only one God, Allah, and he had chosen him as prophet. Muhammad believed he was the last and the greatest in a series of prophets, along with Abraham, Musa, and Jesus. Muhammad will continue to have these revelations and begin preaching his message. He soon gained many followers. However, his belief in only one God upset the people who worshipped many gods. They were afraid that Muhammad's teaching would upset the pagan gods that protected the dead. In 622, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, along with his family and followers, became persecuted for their beliefs and had to flee Mecca. The flight from Mecca to Medina is called the Hijrah. They were welcomed into the city of Medina and were able to freely practice their religion. At Medina, the first mosque was built, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his followers would pray facing east towards Mecca. During this time, the pagans in Mecca tried to go to war with the Muslims in Medina. After several battles, the Muslims defeated the pagans, and in 629, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam returned to Mecca with 1500 converters and took control over the city. Over the next 2 years, most of the Arabian Peninsula converted to Islam. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam died in 632 as a leader of Islam and ruler of southern Arabia. The growth and spread of Islam. With over 1.5 billion followers in over 232 countries, Islam has grown to be one of the world's largest religions. The Middle East and the North Africa have the highest concentration of Muslims, with Asia Pacific containing the highest population of Muslims in the world. The growth and spread of Islam began when the Prophet Muhammad began sharing his divine revelations and spreading messages he received from Allah God. He and his followers were persecuted and fled to the neighboring city of Medina in 622. In Medina, Islam grew, and after much conflict, Muhammad and his followers were able to return to Mecca in 630. Soon after, Mecca will become the center of Islam. After Muhammad's death in 632, the teaching of Islam spread rapidly to many people and places in the Middle East. The period following Muhammad death is known as the Rashidun Caliphate and lasted from 610 to 750. During this period, a Muslim administration and government was established and ruled the Middle East. The Caliphate was governed by the righteous Caliphs or spiritual leaders by 644. These four leaders helped Islam spread and grow far beyond the Middle East through conquests. Major cities like Baghdad, Jerusalem, and Alexandria. The Muslims will also go on to conquer North and Western Africa, effectively taking control over much of the Byzantine and Persian territory. The third Khalifa, Uthman, created a version of the Quran that became standardized and widely used through the Islamic world. He helped establish new schools that taught the Arabic language and Islamic studies. It was also during this period that hundreds of mosques were built throughout the empire. After the death of the last Khalifa in 661, the Umayyad Caliphate took control over the empire and ruled until 750. Historians regard this caliphate as the most powerful and expansive of the caliphs. The Umayyad Caliphs grew the Islamic Empire to its peak and expanded its control from the Middle East to parts of Asia, India, Northern Africa, and parts of Europe. The growth of Islam in these areas helped unite nomadic people into more unified culture by creating common currency, making Arabic the official language, and standardizing measurements. This led to a golden age during the Abbasid dynasty, which came to power by overthrowing the Umayyad in 750. During this period, science, maths, astronomy, medicines, and literature flourished. Libraries and schools were built, and arts and architecture thrived. This period lasted to 1258. The belief of Islam, the five pillars of Islam. Many people practice religion because it creates a sense of community and belonging among those who share the same faith. Religions have certain practices that create a strong sense of community throughout the world. The five pillars of Islam are rules that every Muslim practices, creating a strong feeling of membership amongst the worldwide Muslims community. The first pillar of Islam is called Shahada, or the declaration of faith. The Shahada is the most basic expression of Islamic beliefs. It simply states that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his prophet. When a Muslim recites this, they accept it as true and will follow all of the commandments of Islam. To become a Muslim, a person must recite this 3 times with complete sincerity in front of witnesses. The second pillar of Islam is Salat or prayer. Muslims are expected to pray 5 times a day while facing Mecca. In Islamic countries, there is a public call to prayer which sets the day. This ritual is over 1,400 years old and practiced by millions of Muslims across the world. The beliefs of Islam. The 5 pillars of Islam, zakat, is charity or almsgiving and is the third pillar of Islam. Muslims believe that they are meant to share their wealth with those less fortunate in the community of believers. Each Each year, Muslims are expected to give 2.5% of their wages to charity. This giving is seen as a form of worship and self purification. Muslims believe that his practice frees them from clinging to possessions and greed. Fasting during the holy month of Ramzan is called a Saum and is the fourth pillar of Islam. Ramadan occurs in the ninth month in the Islamic calendar. Ramadan lasts for 30 days. For the first 29 days, Muslims are expected to fast and are required to refrain from food and drink from dawn until dusk. The Muslims view Psalm as being obedient to God and learning self discipline to become spiritually stronger. The last of the 5 pillars of Islam is known as the Hajj. The Hajj is a pilgrimage to Mecca in which all Muslims who are able are required to make at least once in their lives. This ritual takes place during the 12th month of the Islamic calendar and promotes the bond of Islam. This occurs once a year where Muslims gather together in Mecca to praise Allah before the Kaaba, a shrine in the great mosque in Mecca. The early Caliphs and dynasties of Islam. After the Prophet Muhammad died in 632, a new leader of Muslim community was selected. This leader was known as Caliphs, which comes from the Arabic word Khalifa, meaning successor selected by God. The Khalifa led a political religious government known as a Caliphate, which soon grew into an empire. The first four Caliphs are known as the Rashidun Caliphate, meaning the rightly guided Caliphs. Each was connected to Muhammad and known for the leadership and piety. During the reigns, the Caliphate grew from being a purely Arabian power into one of the largest empires in history. The Islamic Empire covered territory from Egypt in the west to Persia in the east. By the end of the Rashidun Caliphate in 661, the Islamic Empire controlled the Arabian Peninsula, much of North Africa, the Iranian Plateau, and parts of Central Asia and South Asia in the east. The first of the Rashidun Caliphate was Abu Bakr, who led from 632 to 634. Abu Bakr was known as the Truthful. He successfully stopped rebellions in the region and firmly established the Caliphate as the ruler of the region. The second Khalifa was Umar ibn al-Khattab, who ruled from 634 to 644. He greatly expanded the Islamic Empire and successfully took control of the Middle East and neighboring regions of Egypt, Syria, and North Africa. The third Caliph, Uthman, ruled from 644 to 656. He was second cousin and son-in-law to Muhammad ﷺ. As Khalifa, Uthman established and standardized the Quran as the official holy book of Islam. The last Caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate was Ali ibn Abi Talib, who ruled from 656 to 661. He was known for his wisdom and speeches. Ali was assassinated in 661 and shortly after the Umayyad dynasty took control of the Islamic Empire. The Umayyad Caliphate will rule nearly the next 100 years. Under the Umayyad dynasty, the empire expanded rapidly to include parts of northern Africa, western India, and Spain. At its peak, the Umayyad dynasty was one of the largest empires in the history of the world. The Umayyads unified the empire through several efforts such as making Arabic the official language and establishing a common form of currency and system of measurements. The Sunni Shia split. Like many major religions such as Christianity, Hinduism, Islam experienced a division among its followers. The division began after the Prophet Muhammad died in the year 632. Many Muslims believe that the leader of the Islamic country shall be someone from Muhammad's family. Others believe that the leadership should fall to the person who was deemed by the elite of community to be best able to lead. This disagreement created a division between Muslims and resulted in two different groups known as Sunni and Shia. The majority of Muslims in the world follow the practice of Sunni Islam. The Arabic word Sunni means one who follows tradition of the Prophet. After Muhammad's death, the majority of Muslims believed that the successor should be someone chosen by the community. They eventually selected Muhammad's close friend and advisor Abu Bakr as the first Khalifa of the Islamic community. Muslims who believe that the leadership should stay within Muhammad's family are known as Shiite or Shia. The Arabic word Shia is shortened word for Shi'at Ali, which means the party of Ali. Shia make up a majority of Muslims in Iran but respect a minority of Muslims worldwide. This came as a result of the rise of Safavid dynasty in the 16th century that made the Middle East a stronghold for the Shia. Shiites believed that the rightful successor of Muhammad should have been his cousin and son-in-law Ali. Shiites follows divinely appointed leaders called Imams. Shiites venerate Imams and believe that they are sinless and their authority comes from Allah. Sunnis believe that the Imam provides religion guidance, leads prayer and worship services, and are community leaders. Sunnis do not believe in a birthright or privileged class of leaders. They believe that leadership and trust is given and taken by the people. In addition to differences in leadership, Sunnis and Shia Muslims differ on the traditions and religion practices as well. Sunni Muslims base their religion on testimonies of Muhammad's close companions. However, Shia Muslims do not believe in the traditions written by the early caliphs and follow verses and texts that come from the Prophet's family. Although there are differences in some aspects of the practice of Islam, Sunni and Shia Muslims share the most fundamental beliefs and articles of Islam faith, such as the God, Allah, the five pillars of Islam, and belief in the Quran as their holy book. Islamic Golden Age achievements. During the Abbasid Caliphate, the Islamic Empire greatly contributed to advancements in many fields, including literature, philosophy, science, medicines, mathematics, and arts. This period is known as the Islamic Golden Age and lasted from 790 to 1258. During the period, Islamic culture placed high importance on education. The first public universities were found in Baghdad, where philosophy and literature were studied. Arab storytellers collected works from diverse sources and wrote many forms of literature such as poetry, history, theology, philosophy, and fables. The most famous of this work was a collection of Arab folk tales known as 1001 Nights. Muslim scholars also translated and preserved the work of ancient Greek philosophers. Two major philosophers came out of the period: Falsafa, which was logic based on Greek philosophy, mathematics, and physics, and Kalam, which is explanation and rationale of Islamic religious beliefs. Doctors studied Greek and Indian works and added to their ideas about medicines. There were hospitals in all of the major Islamic cities. Islamic medicines developed important medical treatments, including a way to surgically treat eye cataracts. The Asian Book of Medicines is called the Canon of Medicine, which was used as a reference throughout the Islamic Empire and Europe for centuries. Islamic scientists built on the work of the Greek and India counterparts. Observations were built during this period to study the sky. They invented the astrolabe and quadrant. The astrolabe is similar to a handheld model of the universe that can help astronomers identify planets and stars. It was also used by explorers to determine latitude on the seas. They also used astronomy for navigation, creating a calendar, and for religion practices like finding the direction of Mecca for prayer. Greek, Indian, and Chinese mathematics were also studied, including geometry and trigonometry. Islamic mathematicians pioneered the study of algebra and helped establish it as a separate field of mathematics. Indian numerals were adopted and popularized by the Persian mathematician Al-Khwarizm. They became known as the Arabic numeral system and subsequently spread across the globe through the trade. Further innovations includes the use of for you rudder to the modern bag check. Religious leaders forbade artists from depicting God or human figures in religion art. Instead of using these figures, Islamic artists created intricate patterns and designs such as arabesques, leaves and flowers, tessellations, geometric patterns, and calligraphy, the art of beautiful handwriting. This can be seen on different forms of art, such as ceramics, painting, and mosaics. Persian, Arab, and Indian artists even excelled at painting miniature works for book illustration. History of Ramadan. Muslims and non-Muslims alike recognize Ramadan as the most significant and holy timetable of the Islamic calendar. During the ninth month of the lunar year, Muslims around the world refrain from eating and drinking between sunrise and sunset, and they use their free time to recite the Quran and strengthen their bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is common knowledge for those within the Islamic community and those outside of it. Too, few people actually know the history behind such a significant month. Muslims with access to an imam will be taught about the events preceding Ramzan, but those who are new to the Muslim community or who are not part of it might struggle to find information relating to the history of the auspicious month. If you like to find out more about the history of Ramzan, please continue reading as we explain how it came to be. The beginning of Islam. To understand how Ramadan became such an important part of Islam, we need to go back to the very beginning, 1610 AD, to be the precise. This is the year during which an Arabian man by the name of Muhammad Prophet ﷺ meditated in the cave of Hira, located in the Jabal and Nur mountain close to Mecca. Whilst he was meditating, Muhammad Prophet ﷺ was visited by the angel Jibril, who revealed the first word of what would later be known as the Quran. The angel told Muhammad Prophet ﷺ that these words came directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that He is the one and only God. At this time in Arabia, it was common for people to worship several different gods, but the angel told Muhammad Prophet ﷺ that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the only all-knowing true God. In the first word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angel commanded that the Muhammad Prophet ﷺ recite what he had just been shown. Muhammad Prophet ﷺ could not read or write, but he was able to recite the words perfectly. It was explained to Muhammad Prophet ﷺ that he was the final of the prophets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent to spread the teaching of the religion of Islam. Other prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent also feature in the teaching of Judaism and Christianity and include Noah, Abraham, Musa, Moses, and Isa, Jesus. The night the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ first saw the angel Jibreel is known as Laylatul Qadr, the night of power. Many Muslims believe this night occurred on the 27th night of the lunar year, which the Islamic calendar is based on. Though some believe it occurs on any of the other odd nights in the final 10 days of the month. The revelations whilst some believes that all of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaching were revealed on Laylatul Qadr. Many believe that the Prophet Muhammad was not shown all the teachings of Allah immediately, and instead he continued to receive revelations for a further 23 years following Laylatul Qadr. Whichever train of thought you choose to follow, the principle behind the revelations remains the same. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala laid out 5 core principles to the Prophet Muhammad, which he said are the values all Muslims, followers of the world of Allah, must live their lives by. The 5 core values are known as the pillars of Islam, and they are Shahada. This is the first and arguable most important pillar because it is when a person declares the belief in one true God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second is Salat. Those who follow Islam must make every effort to pray 5 times every day in order to cement their dedication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and strengthen their bonds with Him. The third is Zakat. One of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's key teaching is that we must give charity to those less fortunate, and that is laminated in the third pillar known as Zakat. The fourth pillar is Sawm. This is a pillar from which Ramadan is derived, as it means to fast. Ramadan is observed by Muslims in order to target this pillar. The fifth pillar is Hajj. All able body-eyed Muslims are expected to make at least one pilgrimage to Mecca, the location where the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were revealed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The origin of Ramadan. The schools of thought you follow will depend on how long you believe the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam received the revelations, and this will also dictate the answer you will believe to be true for the questions of when did Ramadan start in history. Those who believe the revelations took place over 23 years are of the firm belief that the teaching of Psalm and subsequently Ramadan were revealed towards the later half of the period of time, in around 622 AD to be exact. At this time, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his followers lived in Medina after they faced fierce persecutions in Mecca when they tried to spread the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At this time, the weather was particularly hot, and this influenced the name of Ramadan when it was first revealed. Ramadan means burning heat. In an ode to the time of the year it was first revealed, and this time of year marries up with Laylatul Qadr, which happened some 12 years prior. The teaching of Ramadan. As mentioned, Ramadan is observed to honor the fourth pillar of Islam, known as Sawm. As per the history of Ramadan fasting, there are several reasons why Muslims are required to observe Sawm, including If you like my video, please like, share, subscribe to my channel.